Welcome.
Nothing changes, Nick.
Yeah. No, it's 7:30, so we shall start. So as I say, welcome to everybody. Thank you for coming on a miserable night, both the councillors and members of the public. Much appreciated. We'll start with apologies and reasons for absence.
Paul, Councillor Benning may be late. He's at work or hopefully on his way back home from work.
Yeah.
He'll be here as soon as he can.
Definitely late, but we will see him when we see him.
And I haven't heard anything from Joe Voss, but the baby is due fairly soon. So, have you heard anything, Lee?
I think she's planning on leaving sometime in the next couple of weeks.
We'll accept that as a reason.
Right, okay. We have enough noise from the people who are here officially. Declaration by members of any interest, pecuniary or other, in accordance with the Code of Conduct and the guide, blah, 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 blah.
None.
I didn't see any. No, nobody got any things, so therefore no applications for dispensation. Reminder to everyone that the meeting is being recorded. The clerk hasn't put the sign up, but it probably blow away. So please bear in mind, everybody, that it will be recorded, and if the recording works, it will go on the internet, as it usually does. In the Parish Council's YouTube page, or whatever it is, channel. Okay, now I can adjourn the meeting for the public session. We have got one planning application. Does anyone on the public side want to talk about land beside the beaches, formerly Hope Farm, Blackwall Road, which is looking for a variation of conditions? It's already been approved for the one bungalow or something, isn't it?
That's
Or one
three-bedroom
house.
house.
Three-bedroom house is this one, okay. It's the other one that's the one-bedroom one then. Three-bedroom house, but they want to change the conditions of what they do in the garden.
That's right.
Does anyone have anything they want to suggest? Roger, no? Okay. So can we pass? I thought you were just about. So can we pass on from the planning application then, as far as this is concerned? Other items then from members of the public? Roger.
Could I raise the question of the SIDS,
Yes.
of which I am a great fan, which you will be aware, and having noticed the flashing thereof on many occasions as I walk past, and knowing that it doesn't work much below 28, I think, or 27, and certainly doesn't work above 40. Interesting to note how many that I've seen in the short time that I've been there, around 36 to 39 bracket. But that inevitably highlights other dangers, because on my walk back to my house, which you all know where that is, particularly in this wet weather when the water on the other side of the road, on the farm Tower side, it's almost like a river down there. So I walk back on what is the correct side of the road to walk, but have to walk away from the edge. On 3 occasions in the last 4 weeks, I have literally had to stand almost in the road and wave the cars down because they are coming so fast, even in the rain. And now it's not, we know this happens, but it's just become more apparent, highlighted with what's going on. And I would just ask that the council look at this. You've always known, as I have since we've been here, how dangerous that it is. But that bend, as it goes round past the garage, where you can't be seen, whatever, is become worse. There's no question of that at all. One of the little things that might need to be looked at is the fence which comes down the Coronation Field. There's a fence which just comes out about 9 inches, that's all, from the hedge, the Coronation Field hedge going round. And so you can't see around the bend, and they can't see pedestrians.
It's not our fence.
No, I don't actually care whose fence it is, so in the most respectful way that I can say that. But it's something which might be mentioned, and I might mention it to them. It belongs to Hillview Garage. But that is one of the problems. Anyway, enough said. I just like it to be kept very much in the limelight, please. It's become more and more dangerous.
Right. Immediate reactions from what I know to what you've said, which might be helpful, and I'll do it now rather than later. It's not on the, well, it is on the agenda, but anyway, this way it means you can comment if you want to. Kent County Council are still the regulator for the SIDS, although we've paid a large part of it, courtesy in part of a member grant from Mick here, from Ashford's money, and Mike Hills from Kent. We still put in a good slice. They're still the regulator and have decided the policy forward and the location we could go in. The business about not showing a number over 40 miles an hour is because they have taken the view that to allow it to go higher encourages boy racers to see who can get the highest number. A bit like the people, as they say, sometimes have got these dash cams on their motorbike to see if they can do 130 and this sort of thing. So they rule out the 40 and above for display. Downwards, it does, unless it's decided not to now. It did used to go, when it was in Poplar Road, down to about 22, 23. It may well be that no one's coming along from your side at 22, 23, I don't know. What I should add is that although it doesn't display above 40, it records internally above 40. So it doesn't help them to know they're going too fast if it goes above 40, and it doesn't help you to know who's doing 45, but it will at least go into the stats. And we will then be in a position to know how big a problem there is in terms of numbers and averages and all the rest. The location of it, I think, is slightly unfortunate. It was picked by Kent, and they were quite determined as to where they could go, including, at the minute, not in Swan Street. Because first thing I noticed coming along, it's got a slight bend in the road there, probably the one you're talking about. And so once you're into the 30 limit, which you have to be before they want to know, because there's no point measuring you outside, you still are not within the visibility of the sign until you've gone round that slight bend. And by the time you've gone down the slight bend, you're quite a lot closer to it. And also, if you do know where you're going, unlike the people who just tear in and wait to see what happens, you're of course going slower as well. So it's not picking up the worst excesses as people come past your house, rather than round the point that you're talking. And maybe if the fence went, that would help. But as Yvonne says, it's not directly our fence. The data is being downloaded onto Yvonne's computer. We've only so far had 2 sessions, one in Poplar Road, one here. There will now be one in the street for the next 4 weeks. And then they'll go round again and we will start gathering data. It is already showing quite interesting results. Of course, not car specific, but so for instance, it was this area, wasn't it, Stocks Road. The time people are going fastest, you might not be surprised that at 4 o'clock in the morning, was it just after Christmas? Except at Christmas, when we think they were going home a bit slowly, but otherwise middle of the night they're definitely going much too fast. Other times quite a lot, not bad actually, but it varies.
Yeah, I accept all that, and I understand the psychology of the over 40 because, but what it does indicate, the number of times that I have seen it not operate, it means they're entering the village so faster, they're slowing down. You've got to slow down. I mean, whatever. When you get coronation vehicles, you see the bend. Yeah. So it means that they're slowing down, but they're still going over 40. And that's the sort of aspect.
When it was in Poplar Road, which is I used to see it there like you see it where it is now, I found it was sometimes quite hit and miss as to which ones it picked up. And I didn't think it was actually over 40 that was stopping it. I thought they were doing reasonable. So for instance, sometimes it would pick them out a long way back. And sometimes they would come almost to the sign before it illuminated. Now, of course, I know that could be the speed limit, the 40, but actually when it came on, it might then come on at 28. Yeah. So we're getting experience. I take your point. There's not a lot we can do about it. It is KCC's driving. And I think once we have got the hang of it, one of our first priorities will be to try and get back to Swan Street as well, because that's also a road where people go too fast. And it's got the benefit or the disbenefit of the hill.
If I just add something to that, now it's situated in the street for a while, I think the sad thing was that it's actually facing the wrong way, because my experience between 8:30 and 9 on a weekday and between 10 and 15 on a Sunday is the number of people who are tearing down that road to get to school or church, regardless of the speed limit. And I think that would pick up a lot more people than people coming into the village the other way. But the lamppost in the way, so we can't turn it around now, sadly. But
need to be on the other side of the road
Yeah,
as well, so
yeah.
there wasn't anywhere suitable.
No, I
This
know,
is what
but-
they came up with.
yeah.
No, where it is at the moment, of course, it does, the school run, and I hesitate to say school mums driving in, but they don't know how to drive fast.
Yeah.
Where it is coming in from the Stocks end, of course, they're all slowing down to turn left to go into the school, so they've actually slowed down. But where the speed is, part of the problem is that part of the problem, but it will never solve it, is that the 30-mile-an-hour limit is far too close to
Yeah.
the village.
Yeah.
And it should be at least 400 metres further back, in my view, and that would at least give warning. But it is just now the speed with which they come round that bend. You can't see what's going on. There's something coming the other way. There's going to be. I hope it isn't going to be me or no.
Sure. One other thing just to add in is that now we've got the SIDS finally at Swan Street apart, we do have the opportunity, if villagers want to do it, of going onto the Speedwatch system, where Speedwatch cameras, speed detectors, are available for borrowing. We need people from the village then to be willing to do it, to be trained, to be willing to stand up to the people who give them abuse, because it happens for sure. And the police are very keen to see it. It's one of the things that they don't really want to get terribly involved in speeding, so far as one can make out, but they are really pretty keen to get people out doing Speedwatch. And they are quite willing, as I understand it from the discussions that I've heard, that although you can't prosecute somebody from Speedwatch, there's no officer there, they're quite willing to write to people saying you have been reported by them and keep it down. And of course they'll keep a record of that.
I even do this, I know, and I don't know how successful it is, but I have seen them
Yeah.
wave.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
Nice, thank you.
Yes, please.
Can I just say, Roger, if you're interested in statistics and the like, I'm quite happy for you to have a look at what I've got, and if you'd like to work with me, because it's a case of bringing out what we've got within the system, to bring it
And relating
out
it.
and to gather some definite
I would
information
indeed, because
would
I
be
think
good.
it may be that because it's Kent County Council, and because as you are a parish council, speak to them. I, as an individual, can speak to them as well.
Well, it's just,
And,
but just
and
see
so
what we've got.
this is my experience, let alone what the statistics
Okay,
show.
but there's a lot, it's on spreadsheets, but there's a lot of data which you can select in different ways, and it needs a bit of time to do data analysis. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank
So-
you.
The vehicle registrations are not picked up?
No, no, it's not a camera in that sense, it's a radar speed detector.
Well, what it does do is it gives you the number of vehicles that are coming through, and it's an hourly thing, so it gives you the number of vehicles coming through at that hour, and the speed. You get the average speed and what have you. But there is one instance that we picked up, Poplar Road, at the top of Lloyd's Green, was that between 5 and 6 and 6 and 7, there was one vehicle that was one time at 50 was brought up as the speed, and another time 45. So there is a vehicle that is coming through. But what we can do is we can inform the police. This is what this is bringing up. We've got statistics. They can then send somebody out at that time and see if they can. But that's the sort of thing we get. From this, we can feed back to the police as to.
And that's the other thing about Speedwatch, because there you are picking up individual vehicles rather than the hourly average.
Excuse me.
And you have the opportunity, provided you're not going down too fast, you've got to have enough people to do it, to actually write down 43 and the registration. Okay? Phil?
Can I introduce
Yes, please.
Chris Teasdale, who is going to take up the post of tree warden for the village. after all these years at last. He's come to a tree warden meeting.
Good.
And he was looking for a project. So is there anything you want to say, Chris?
Am I mad?
Not at all.
But it helps.
No, I just thought somebody's got to do the job. Phil's obviously done his bit, so I'm quite interested in that side of things. I did botany at school, and I learned a lot of Latin names for plants.
Brilliant.
Might be helpful or not helpful. I tried to get a job description out of Phil, but I've not succeeded yet, so I don't know what I'm letting myself in for.
What turns up covers it.
Right.
I should point out that Phil has set the benchmark, and it is a minimum term now of 27 years.
That's fine.
No time off for good behaviour.
And as for the Latin names, of course, we only use Latin names when referring to Phil.
Which I don't know anyway.
Right, well, thank you for coming.
Thank
Chris, you're very welcome, and we look forward to the benefit of your advice, input, help, whatever.
Thank you.
I mean, trees are an important part of our work. They're not a huge part, but they do come along as an issue. People do sometimes ask to do something alone, and we'd like to know, what's what. There's also the annual visit that comes from the inspection by the Kent Man of the Trees, which Phil always looks after, and we have a pretty good record on it. I think, well, it's hard to know, I think that's partly through demonstrating the degree of knowledge and interest that Phil does, that he obviously gets on very well with the person who comes, different one most years, I think, and we get good reports. This year we didn't win a prize, we got a highly commended. Well, I'm very happy to get a highly commended.
We got good shot on a tree.
Yes, still got a prize.
Yeah.
Last
Still
time
got
we
a
got
tree.
the first prize or something.
Oh
didn't we?
dear.
We do very well. That's the
Yes.
point.
Yes.
And yes, we got a free tree, which we will plant with advice on where to put it.
So bear that in mind, Chris.
Oh no, setting a high bar, yes, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you got the Latin name for it, Eva?
Oh, it's probably in the report.
It is in the report.
Yeah. It's a hornbeam, isn't
Hornus
it?
Venus.
A
Hornus.
It's got Pinus
Hornbeam.
speculus.
No.
No.
Why?
It's got Pinus speculus.
Well, very impressed.
Could mean anything.
Hornbeam, that's
Yeah.
that's the
Yes,
name I
yeah.
have to
So
write.
we're just going to find out if it's right.
There's the secret certificate.
Yeah.
Very good.
It does refer to it, I think, in the
Yeah, it
report.
does.
I had a suggestion for that.
Yeah.
From setting an idea. I wondered if there's not been any ideas about where to plant it yet. I wondered about if we could work with the school and they could find a star pupil who the award would be the planting the hornbeam, perhaps along the edge of the school playing field, something like that. Because children love to get involved in things like that. We had a tree planting at Hadley College one year, before I got there actually, but it was struck me how interested the kids were because they put their name on the tree and they sort of took possession and they often went round there and had a look at it. They loved it.
They didn't carve the name on the tree.
Pardon?
They didn't carve the name on the tree.
No.
I don't think so, no.
Right.
I don't know quite how they did it.
Okay, well, that's an
Just
idea.
very
So
nice.
do you want to talk, is that one for you to talk to the school about, or what do you want?
Probably Phil.
Or Phil?
Yeah.
Phil too,
Probably
yeah.
Phil, wasn't it?
Okay.
To do
I don't know anybody
Yeah.
in the school. That's the only problem.
That's why I thought of one of you two.
Well, no, I think it's probably best that Phil, because I
Phil,
won't know.
Phil.
I'll just talk about a tree. I won't.
Would you like to introduce
About
Phil
the
to who he
tree.
needs to talk to then? Okay.
Who do I contact?
Headmistress is best.
Headmistress. Okay.
Claire Foster.
You've got the phone number? Or?
No. No.
No.
Hmm.
329.
So, it's all gone.
Claire Frost. Okay.
Thank you.
Lee,
No.
anything to report?
Yes.
Mrs. Frost.
No. Been quiet. Good.
On this weather.
Any other things that people want to bring up? No? Can I close the public session now? Thank you. So we'll go back to the council meeting proper then. So, confirm the minutes held on the 10th of December. Our Christmas meeting. Did anyone have any points to query or correct?
No.
No?
I
Can I-
found 2 or 3.
That I missed.
Sent them out, so
You've done them again.
I corrected
Just
them.
typos.
Yes.
Can I sign them all corrections? They have increased the clerk's expenses, haven't
I
I'll
will
stop.
by correcting my mistakes.
they? Yeah. Right. Oh, stabbing myself as usual. Right. That's the minutes then confirmed. Matters arising. Play park update from you.
Right, I met Amanda Scott from Ashford Borough Council, who advises on new play areas in the borough, and John Middleton, Sarah's husband, Karen Rivers and Alf on site this morning. The present play area comes under housing and is as such only checked for health and safety reasons. Suitability and being fit for purpose isn't actually of concern to them. Thus, Anthony Crossley, Housing Department, didn't think a meeting with him was appropriate. Aspire are the ones who are their maintenance people. They inspect all the play areas for insurance purposes, and they have 3 categories that they are looking at. So there's category A, where things are so bad that immediate closure has to take place. And then there's B, which is where work is needed within 48 hours. And then C is an area just to be monitored. So obviously ours comes under just to be monitored. So they don't think anything definitely needs to be done. Amanda took photos of the area, and Alpha's found that we can purchase a piece of equipment that he could use to clear the play surfaces, like brush that fits onto his equipment, so he can get rid of some of the mossy type stuff and clear it off that way. So he's happy to do that. And talking to Amanda, we spent an hour in the rain up there this morning. Amanda is very happy and keen to give any help that she can when discussing new equipment, and is very happy to help whatever group is set up, which is what she was encouraging, that the group, not the parish council, but the group that is keen, they form themselves into a charity or a constitution or something, so that they can then apply for funding. They are an entity of their own, and she's very happy to work with them. Now this group, actually what they are really keen on and want, is to have new equipment on Coronation Field. If that did happen, the play area would still remain as the play area there. We'd still have the maintenance responsibility. It would still be Ashford's thing. So this would be in addition to what went on. So they are going to put forward a request for the next meeting to have a play area on Coronation Field.
A request to us.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Because obviously they are aware that Coronation Field is our land, and the liabilities and all that goes with it, having a play area, would have to be discussed fully.
Sure.
But that is what most people want.
Yeah.
She's also aware, and Amanda confirmed this, that we're really talking about £100,000 for what they're
That's right.
looking for. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Well, this really is just putting a bit more flesh on what we already surmised and what we'd already discussed in the meetings in about October, November, December, when they came along to see us before, and the petition that we've looked at, where most people, 99 out of 100, said Coronation Field. So it's telling us what we could see coming. This is a big ask, as they say, or quite a substantial hurdle, but they're very keen. and there will be sources of funding. There is funding for groups from Ashford, quite apart from the member grants, which is the ones that we tap into usually from Mick and Mike. There is they give out quite a substantial amount of money to other groups in Ashford. And then there's lottery funding and there's various other things that we all know about or hear about. They're all possible. But it's a long way to go.
It's probably of no interest, but the group perhaps might just be informed of this. At Beckley School have one or two structures in their playground which, they're substantial wooden climbing whatever, which they want to move on because they need too many members of staff to supervise.
Really?
And they would like them to go somewhere else. And it seems a remote possibility that Wittersham could be a destination for some of it.
Indeed. Well, you've got a link into Beckley School, have you?
Yes.
So, would you like to suggest to Karen or who's the other
It's too
one?
big in case where we put it.
No,
Yeah,
no.
we keep it in the meantime.
Because
But
if it was here,
the
obviously
word
it's out.
new has been used. Of course, this isn't strictly
New.
New to us.
Neither is it very old.
Mm.
And
Indeed.
it's one of those structures that's got quite a lot of big wooden posts, but also some of those plastic bits are stuck on, screw on the sides, so you climbing from.
Well, I mean, clearly there's some distance to go, but it's worth having putting the two ends together to look and,
Yes.
and feel. And it may be that the people on our group's side will say that's just the sort of thing we're thinking about. Wouldn't this be wonderful? Or maybe they'll say no, that's not really our vision at all.
Indeed, I think it's likely to be the latter, but
Yeah.
I just
But we
thought I'd
don't-
throw it in because I know Beckley School would like it to go,
Well,
and it's
If-
in very good condition.
if Yvonne can ask Karen Stroke, who's the other lady?
Sarah.
Karen and or Sarah to get hold of Alan to get the contacts at Beckley School,
Yep.
and it's only 5 miles to go and see it.
Yep.
That would make very good.
Can I give them your email address?
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's easy then. And I mean, they're probably, I understand that they won't want it hanging around because then children can still use it even if it's put out of bounds. But on the other hand, it's probably not breakneck to get rid of it.
It's probably
not breakneck to get rid of it.
no. I mean, it's fixed in the ground because it's a substantial.
But it'll have to be disassembled and all
And
that.
I suspect that the new owner would be required to disassemble.
Of course, yeah.
But they may have somebody clever up their sleeve.
Indeed. George?
Can I just go back to Yvonne's original comments about the current play park? My concern with that is that it's, you said the level they were telling us it was at was just needed reviewing. I mean, I think it's a lot worse than that, to be honest. I mean, I know, but I would challenge that. And in terms of the longer term it will take to get this new play park set up as well, we need to have some assurance that it's going to be looked after and not allowed to just deteriorate. They'll say, oh, we're having a new one, we'll leave this one then to fall apart.
Well, what I was saying to Amanda was that I wouldn't mind having a site meeting with Aspire, with the bods that come out, and so that they show them and say, well, really, is this what you think? But also, according to Amanda, our play area there isn't the worst. They've got worse Ashford Borough Council play areas
I'm sure they
in the
have.
borough.
Yeah, but that's not
So
That's not
ours-
recommendation.
Yes, but it means that then, if they're going to
Yes,
do
I know,
anything, they're going
I
to do
know.
them to the others.
But
not ours.
they might think ours is worth doing because it will be looked after more than some of the others may be.
True.
Apologies for asking a very quick question.
Okay.
But is the idea they close the old one?
No.
So we're going to have it
Need to
to
keep it going
maintain?
anyway.
Okay, that's kind of...
To be able to play all day.
No, I'm just thinking of, I very rarely agree with certain individuals from the public's comments, but I have to say, I find myself in agreement with the lady who mentioned the point about the long-term maintenance obligation.
Yeah.
I don't think that will be in the 100,000, because I think probably add over 5 years 50% on top of that.
We were saying with the time as well,
Yeah,
last
that's
time,
right.
or any caretaker's time
Well, yes, yeah.
to do it all as
But
well.
I'm thinking who would be maintaining and re-equipping and the cost of the other one.
In the meantime,
That's the rationale for keeping it. What's
keeping
the
both. Yeah, I agree.
Especially
The
Borough
only
Council
good,
there.
well, apart from it being Ashford's, the only logical rationale which strikes me is location.
Yeah, it's just
They
where
are
all the
some
children
distance
live.
apart.
Well, yeah, in that case, I would question the Coronation Street. Coronation Field, sorry.
Long way to
You know,
go.
it's always going to be a long way
Yeah.
if you live the other way. Of course, they could turn the old play park in. How many houses did you get on there?
Several.
Several houses. There you go.
Coronation Field is
Then you
more
get the
central
Section
in the
106
village.
money.
Yeah.
There you go.
Coronation
get
Field is
100,000.
more central. Okay, can we move on from the play
Yeah.
park?
Depends where
Good.
the new housing estate is.
Okay. Well, yeah,
You
true.
can't really do much.
Mirror opposite top of Acton Lane, it is lane, obviously note the typo, not land.
No, the correct one is
the
George
one
pointed
right
that
round.
out. The ones that were out.
Okay.
Correct.
That's
Been
how
done.
It works.
It
I
Yes.
tested
I
it
used
out.
it last night.
Good.
Looks pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes.
And I thanked, I believe it was Tim Piper's son who was putting
Owen.
it up.
Owen.
Owen put it up.
And I thanked him, and I also sent an email to Tim.
Good.
thanking him.
Good. Well,
Okay.
Looks good.
Right, well, that was a good result, and it took a bit of pushing through, but it's done. Thank you. The planning application then, land beside the beaches, formerly Hope Farm, Blackwall Road, a variation of conditions because they've already been granted the application for the three-bedroom house. Does anyone want to comment on it? Any views? No?
it's fine.
Are people
Yes.
happy with it?
Yeah, I didn't see any reason to make any other
Good.
comment. Yeah.
Okay. Next one is to consider, thank you, consider the Kent Men in the Trees competition report and actions to be taken. Now, what we did last year, I thought, by the way, it was an excellent report.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from what it said, and I'm no expert on trees, I thought it was an excellent report because it told us a lot with photographs, you know, it told us the things we needed to do. Now, last year, I think, was the first year in recent times, my times, that we set up a little group to make sure that we didn't just say, oh, that's very interesting and stick it in the pile, but actually went out and said, okay, these are the recommendations, are they agreed, and if so, let's do them. And I think that's what we ought to do again. We ought to have that discipline because otherwise we're wasting the inspector's time. And that means, in my view, subject to you all, that because this is our first year, perhaps Phil, if he's willing, and certainly Chris, as the tree warden, and the middle of the handover, as it were, coupled with one or two councillors, perhaps, and Yvonne stroke Alf, to agree what he recommends, rather, I mean, there's always a possibility that our little group will say, well, actually, we're not sure that's what we want to do, and I understand that. I mean, we shouldn't just do it slavishly, but I imagine it's good advice. And if it is to be done, then to actually make sure that it's pushed through and that Alf does it, because the other possibility is the stasis always of, we'll do all of that, but it never quite gets done. And we don't want them coming along next year, looking at last year's report and saying, oh, you haven't done this one yet, which I think is what's happened this time. So can I suggest that is a way to go? And then if one or two councillors would like to be willing to join that. Leslie for one, excellent.
I like trees.
Yes, good. And yes, we had you two fingered, but it's very kind that you volunteered. Better than a pressed man or woman.
No.
Thank you very much. So can I leave you to pull that together and wait till the wind drops?
Are you going to coordinate anything?
Yeah.
That's
Good.
it.
Excellent, thank you. And I think, and I'm assuming that Chris can join that, and hopefully Phil, which is a good way of handing over where our specimen trees are as well. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Excellent, thank you.
Good.
And I didn't mean to imply by that, Phil, that your handover is going to be in any way accelerated. The timing between the two of you is exactly what you want it to be. Of course.
We'll just agree.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Excellent.
Hopefully.
Excellent. Well, we might get you to stay 28 years yet. Okay. The next one is the task list. Now, last month I handed out a task list. I brought just one for Yvonne this time. What I've done so far, we said we needed to know of anything to add on,
Yeah, I'm really sorry, I wasn't here last time.
and you never got one.
I don't
No.
think so.
No,
And you weren't here either. And I never thought to send you one.
not
since.
me.
And you weren't.
No, there were three apologies.
Right, okay.
Number one task, circulate.
That's actually that I've
You didn't
filled.
email it.
I missed that, sorry.
The chairman has not sent
List
things out.
To
The chairman has not sent things out.
Colin,
No.
We didn't notice it
Leslie,
always.
and Sue. Okay. I'll give you mine anyway, you can share. What I've done with last month's is simply to add two on that we already knew about. One is to question whether we're going to do the VE Day anniversary marking, which we're being encouraged to do. And the other one is we've got to come up with a highways improvement plan. So those two have been added on. But I will also then add on anything else that people want me to. I know one's come in with an email saying, can we this or can we that, extra things.
Do you want me to add something about the VE? There's a development on the VE Day celebrations, if
Please do.
that's relevant at this moment.
Yeah.
Moving.
Too good.
Too good.
Too good.
Too good one.
To be true.
Has sent me an email saying that the British Legion want to be involved in any planning for anything that might happen on the sports field. So three of us from the British Legion committee have agreed to meet up with him and whoever else he's going to invite to start getting the ball rolling with some ideas.
Said Mervyn from British Legion.
No.
Do you mean
Well,
something?
He's saying
he is actually British Legion.
But he's saying sports field.
He's doing it from the sports field point of view. Three of us from the British Legion
Okay, so although nothing's definite, there is at least some enthusiasm for a maybe.
Can I suggest that can we discuss it?
Please do.
Sorry,
Can we all just,
I mentioned the fact that notwithstanding what the plans are that you talk through with that in previous years the parish council has given support where there have been events like that. The last time we had something, we agreed to underwrite the cost of the tent, the marquee or what have you.
Yes, we did.
I'm not suggesting we decide that now, but I think it would be a good idea to send a message back saying that within a certain range, in principle, the parish council supports the village.
yeah, with some sum. I imagine
With some
that
sum,
would
yeah.
most likely happen.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
thought we wouldn't wish
As
to.
it's happening in May, unless we've actually got something to report next month, and we've met and I can come back here with something to report, we're getting running out of time with Christmas. So
When you speak to Mervyn, ask him where they got the tent from last time,
Yeah.
because I suspect that day there'd be a big demand for
Yeah.
it.
Quite
So,
right.
yeah. Book
When-
early to
when are
avoid
you actually
disappointment.
talking
the
about?
school have got two people.
When are you talking about in May?
20.
Bank holiday weekend, isn't it?
Oh, it's the 8th, isn't it?
28, bank holiday, isn't
It's
it?
the
Because I
8th.
was thinking
No,
in
it's
terms
the
of...
Friday.
It's the Friday the 8th. It's
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
It's
I
public
was
holiday.
thinking
Friday
in terms
evening?
of Judy doing the big thing on the 2nd
Sorry.
of May.
No,
It's
this is
the early May bank holiday that's been moved. not the late
That's
May.
right.
Yeah.
So it's,
May the
It's
8th is
supposed to be a
actually
village
the-
fete on the sports field. isn't
Well, there's a
it?
Well, they might
national
all be
day
together
is
then.
the 8th.
No.
it's the 8th,
Oh,
is
it's
it?
definitely the 2nd of May.
Yeah, but that's some pole dancing thing she's doing, isn't it?
No,
Right.
it's a
Well,
village
Maypole.
fete.
Well,
Pole
can't-
dancing?
that's the key thing, I think. That,
What's going
well, that's what she said, maypole dancing.
I know,
No.
I said hold up.
Well, okay.
there is
Councillor Benning, you did mention pole dancing.
One at a time.
there is another issue. You're not going to have two village
operating
fates.
on maximum.
All right, settle down.
The point
We're
I'm
not going
trying
to have
to make.
two village fates a week apart, are we?
No.
Well, the big national public celebration, the national
It's on the
holiday,
8th.
VE
Yeah.
Day is the 8th. And I know that Mervyn's keen
Yes,
to
that's
recognise
what
that.
we're talking
I
about.
fully support
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
If there's something else organised, I question the wisdom of trying to do two things. And to my mind, there should be one day, and it should be the national day.
Unheard of the other one.
You know,
I mean, VE Day is immutable, it's the 8th of May,
Yeah.
that's the
and
anniversary.
that's the public
The
holiday.
bank holiday is the first Monday in May, normally, May
Yes.
Day
Yeah.
bank holiday.
Yeah.
This year, that has been moved.
Yes.
And it's becoming the Friday instead, which is the VE Day's the Friday.
Yeah.
so that it's still tied to the weekend on the day.
It's of course not compulsory. People
thought
can
so,
celebrate
yeah.
any day.
One point to
People
bear,
have their choice.
no, indeed. One point to bear in mind in terms of the day, although it's well above our pay grade, is that in France, VE Day is always celebrated, always on the day. In France, they don't move days. On the 8th of May, every village in France will have the Marseillaise played, in the middle of the village square at whatever the time is. A bit like our
They come off strike especially to do it, don't they?
Yeah, obviously.
Oh no.
Right. Okay. So I think that we've agreed informally that we would likely be willing to make a contribution of some description.
I'll report back on
if or
February.
when,
Yes.
but that's not formalised yet. And we would be encouraging something being done. And if there is going to be some clash between two people's desires of when to have a fete, that sounds to me like someone hasn't quite joined the programme, because May Day, bank holiday, isn't on the Monday anymore.
No, but she's
Incidentally, a
doing
lot
it
of diaries.
Saturday. She's doing it on the
Why?
Saturday.
Why would she do something on Saturday?
Who is she anyway?
The teacher.
Oh, Judy.
Judy.
Why does she want to do something on
Because
Saturday?
because she wanted the village fete, and the school now don't do the maypole dancing that they did years ago. She wants to incorporate it to bring it back to a big village thing.
Why can't she have it on the bank holiday?
It's
I've
not
no
May Day.
idea why she. Perhaps
Day is
it's
it?
nearer to
Maybe she
birth, I
doesn't
don't
say
know.
that.
It's the first.
And I presume she'd gone to the sports club and has got the field because we did.
Perhaps it's just best if someone has a word with her rather than us
Oh, indeed.
talking about her.
Indeed. It
She
does
put,
seem
she
a bit.
put in a big
It
thing in
does
the
seem a bit
magazine this month.
unhelpful
I've seen
to
it as
split
well.
enthusiasm
Asking
between the
for
two. The other thing just to bear
May
in mind,
queens and
the other thing just to bear in
princesses.
mind, according to the newspaper a few weeks ago, is that a lot of diaries and calendars were printed
Yes.
with the May Day bank holiday on the May Day bank holiday,
Yeah.
and they're all complaining bitterly because the government, as you might expect, took a decision far later than the print deadlines to actually move bank holiday,
Yeah.
and therefore a whole load of it is giving false information. But it's definitely the bank holiday has been moved.
About 2 days off.
But if she was going to do it on the bank holiday, as was,
No, it's
No.
it would have been the 4th, not the
No.
2nd.
No,
So
it's
I don't-
Nothing to do with the bank
You're doing it on the
holiday.
Saturday. It's the bank holiday
Second
weekend.
of May.
Mm.
Bank holiday weekend, and it's also May Day, because May Day with
Mm.
maypoles,
Exactly.
which of course was the first. Okay, someone, whoever, won't be me, ought to be having that discussion with Judy and saying, is this really a good idea? And she may say that it is, and fine, we can't stop her. Incidentally, the sports club, of course, is controlling the field, so they've always got that position, that locus.
Well, she must have gone and asked them already, I would have thought. She wouldn't be advertising it.
There's no cricket on that. So
Okay.
Well, that would really. You want a cricket match as well? Why
You're
don't
not,
you
you're
have a
not playing,
cricket
you haven't
match?
started the cricket season
Alan,
now.
really put the.
No, there will be a cricket match in September, but
No, I meant in May.
yes.
Yes, Bill.
Well, let's talk to Mervyn about that.
It's probably still the football season. Right, can we move on from that then? The task list in general, as opposed to that one item, I'm still open to people suggesting other things, but that's the list as it stands at the minute, and I will try and send one to you on the email. Okay?
Yep.
Right. Land holdings registration. Sorry, one more thing. Before I go from task list, half a step back. The highways improvement plans. I think Yvonne sent out
Yes.
a thing about that.
Yep.
I've got a calc meeting tomorrow night, and if I have it in my mind, as I hopefully will, I'll see what other people in calc think. I think KCC are trying to pull a fast one here.
Yes.
The idea of parish highway improvement plans, as originally put by the highways director, was that, at least this is the way I read between the lines when he did it, He was just presenting, extemporising at the highway seminar last year. He said, I'd like parish councils to look into what they would like from highways and tell us what they want and what their priorities are, and then we can look at them and we can work it out, and we will, you know, it's better for you to tell us what you want rather than us just do what we like. Fair enough, I thought. They're obviously not going to do everything we want. Everything's on a long queue, so give us the opportunity of guiding their hand. This has now done a little bit of a sleight of hand, this Nicola floodgate. You can put forward your plan, and then you talk to their team or to the highway stewards, and then it says KCC will give free initial advice, but if a scheme is identified and considered to be appropriate, KCC has to charge for any significant officer time for design or delivery as it's over and above KCC's core function, and we have to supplement our staff resource to deliver your schemes. That's rubbish. What we're doing is saying we would quite like, out of these 3 schemes that you ought to be doing because you're responsible for the roads, we'd like you to do this one first. That's not a good opportunity for them to say, well, if that's the one you want, you can pay for it. Yes, they might well, like the footpaths do, say, well, look, you know, a little bit of money would help us. But that's not what this is saying. This is saying, well, we expect you to pay for officer time before we even think about it, beyond the initial discussion. And soon after that will be, and yes, and it's going to cost us a whole load of money to do this mini roundabout that you think would be a good idea. And we're sitting on our hands until you come up with it. That is not the right. Yeah, well, that's what I read into it. And if they're asking us to pay for officer time to start it off,
can you find a nice way of words to reply to them that deals with it?
Well, that's why I'm going to raise it at Calc tomorrow, hopefully all being well, and then it gives me the opportunity to respond from Calc, Calc Ashford, to say, boy, you know, and I will do it to Simon Jones, the director, and say, are you sure Nicola Floodgate's got the right idea for what you wanted?
I think we're fair square behind you.
Yeah. Whether we get anywhere, I don't know. But it seems to me that if we're only talking about things that they wouldn't do, then we're so far down the queue that it's hardly worth thinking about.
That's right.
Because they will always do the ones that they believe are necessary first.
That's right.
And from the SIDS, we already know that they can be jolly obstinate as to what they're willing to agree. I mean, even though we paid a large part of it, well, we paid all of it. I mean, apart from member grants, it didn't come from highways.
Is there anything on our current task list that ties into
this?
that?
Is HIPS. It's on. It's in.
No, what I mean is, there's nothing like we haven't sort of thought at some stage of bringing a pedestrian crossing opposite the shop, or
well, Voices did. Voices did.
That's what I'm trying to remember back to. Or indeed, we had a request from parishioners in Peaning Court to extend the 50 mile an hour out there. So we do have, but I would suggest that right now the answer would be, given that we haven't got the funds for it, that we have nothing that's a priority at the moment to invest.
Where I think this does actually go over and turn the coin the other way completely is if we do the bit of grass outside the hairdressers, I would expect us to pay for all of that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got anything to do with KCC. It's never going to be a priority. HIPS is a way of putting them in the position of agreeing it and keeping out of our way. And I would expect to pay for that. So that's one where I don't see a problem. But if we were saying something else that we thought was needed that they ought to do anyway, it may be that they'll just say, no, we're not going to. It's not our priority, we're not. But it's this idea that the moment we suggest anything, they hold their hand out so that they can get a contribution to their staff costs. I think that's outrageous.
I completely agree.
Go for it. I mean, even Ashford doesn't do that.
Up the ball of gas.
Don't give them ideas.
Okay. Right.
Yes. What, in terms of what I'm saying?
Yeah, not about Ashford.
No, not about that. Well, it was, they don't.
Well, yeah.
Would you excuse us? Thank you very much for coming, both of you. Thanks. So nice to see you again, Chris.
Be careful of falling branches.
Yeah, what's up with the weather?
Yes.
I'm potholes.
Good night, Roger. Good night.
Potholes, what are they?
Well, I'll see you tomorrow night.
I've never seen a pothole.
See you tomorrow night.
Old trees, isn't
Good night. Thanks for coming.
I must avoid coming over there. Yeah. It's not big.
Right. Okay, let's press on.
Press on. We can finish by now.
Let's press on. Sorry, were you just going to raise something?
No.
No, she wasn't.
No, let's press on.
Are you staying on for?
She just wants to talk.
I'm just thinking of the horrible.
She's enjoying herself.
It's what counts for enjoyment these days. The next one is the land registration, which we've talked about in the past. Now, there is a specific resolution. It's not on the agenda as a resolution, but there's something that we will hopefully resolve at the end of this. We have now, after a long delay, got some improved or updated drafts, revised drafts, of 3 statutory declarations for Yvonne to make as clerk. One for the cemetery, that's to say the current cemetery, because the new extension is already registered. One for the War Memorial, the Green Stroke Memorial Gardens, Coronation Field and Bus Shelter, all done in one piece. And one for the Village Hall and car park in one piece, although they originated separately. Now there are a few little points to raise for Yvonne to raise with them, like cemetery spelt wrong. The plans are all supposed to be marked Exhibit 1, but they're not, so I presume they're going to write it on by hand, because this comes off computer.
Possibly not, because their email said print them off and for me to take them straight to.
Oh, that's true. Well, someone's got to write Exhibit 1 on all of the maps anyway, because they refer to them as Exhibit 1 and they're not.
Is it more than one?
They talk about the attached land registry map search plan, map search, and it's a map, and it's attached, but then it says annexed here unto and marked Exhibit 1, when you haven't marked it, Exhibit 1 is really going backwards, isn't it?
But is there more than one exhibit?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
No, there isn't. In other words, but marked Exhibit 1.
It's like a level of self-selection.
It's exceptionally poor bureaucracy, let's put it that way. Anyway, the first two, the Coronation Field, Memorial Gardens, etc., and the cemetery, there are little things to change, but essentially they are pretty straightforward. Some things are a little bit of a muddle, like all the dates that Yvonne asked them to check. They've just put them all in red. So I don't know, they check them. We've got to get that done properly. But that part can be done. The third one is more difficult, which is the village hall. There's a paragraph in here which I think is nonsense. Now, Yvonne says, well, that was us trying to explain to them the situation earlier when we had nonsense. And I think what's happened is they've just kind of done a bit of a cut and paste and made nonsense into double nonsense. And it's, in my view, just not true. And just so you're on top of the broad problem here, and obviously for George as chairman of the village hall as well, it says at the minute, I declare the council considers it owns the land, which is here, which is regularly accessed by the council, and now it goes off-piste. And the maintenance and upkeep of the land is exclusively carried out by the council, but the land is held under a charitable trust known as Wittersham Village Hall, and the council are custodian trustees of the land, but beneficial ownership and all other responsibilities lies with the charitable trust carrying on its activities as declared in point 5 above. I think what's happened, having looked at it again since we spoke on the phone this afternoon, is that the second part of that was our explanation as to why the first part was wrong. And all they've done is added it on the end. Because they'd written their bit and Yvonne wrote underneath, no, you know, blah, 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 and they've just typed it in. So now this, it also is based on the land's been used as a village hall since 1950 and car park and all the rest of it. Now, apart from getting over the legal situation, and they have not applied their legal minds to it as to how the custodian trusteeship works, the other thing is that in the Charity Commission deed, which you're familiar with, it says this. This is dated 95.
in 1895.
The official custodian for charities, this is 1995. The official custodian for charities in whom the land with the buildings thereon specified in the schedule is vested, this is 95, in trust for the charity, is hereby discharged from his trusteeship as respects the said land and buildings. So in 1995, the official custodian for for charities stopped being the owner. The paragraph before this says Wittersham Parish Council shall be the custodian trustee of the charity. So far as I can make out, although the land came to be a village hall way back many decades ago, the current situation with the Parish Council only applied from 95, and we can't declare anything as to if that was tidied up, that paragraph, before 95. Having said which, I suspect back in the 1930s and the 1940s, it may very well have been the Parish Council then as well. And I think it's come and gone. Now, is it possible, Paul, perhaps for me to have a talk with your colleague at ACRK, the Village Halls expert?
Yep.
What's her name?
Well,
she might tell me how this system's supposed to work.
First of all, yes, it is. In terms of the contact, it's a slight state of flux at the moment because she's reducing her hours. However, we've got somebody else come on board.
Yeah, I thought that was helping with housing though, wasn't it?
But there's also someone in the village hall, I think so. So what I would suggest is you probably, and there is a meeting of the board of Rural Kent next Monday, which we'll be both at. It might be worthwhile you addressing it first of all to Keith Harrison, the chief exec, and then ask him to put you in touch. There is a trustee who's specifically responsible for that area as well, which is Frank.
Yes, you're right.
Frank.
Frank, yeah.
Frank. What's Frank's surname?
Okay.
White?
No.
Anyhow, speak to Keith first. Keith Harrison first of all. But if you can manage to get that to him before Monday, then I will have a word with him and say, have you got it? And we want to move this on.
Because what I think's happening at the minute.
But specifically, the answer is yes, they will be.
It's rather disappointing. I don't think the lawyers either understand it or are applying themselves to it. So we need to know exactly what this situation about custodian trustees is and whether the law changed in 95 and this, that and the other. Because somehow or other we have to demonstrate to the land registry that it is ours. The title is ours. I know you're the beneficial trustee and beneficial owners. We've got to demonstrate the title. To be in a lot of ways, this is it.
Well,
and it's 25 years old.
I think you're absolutely right. And one of the true tests at some stage in the future, who knows when, is when we come to consider at some stage in the future a potentially a new village hall in a different location, and we have to sell this. Who owns it?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's
this
the
is
bit
all
that's
part of the
really
reason for
important to
registering it
clarify.
now.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we've got to get it, and we've got to get it right. But I think I couldn't understand where that phrasing came from, but I now realise that what they've done, without any brain power at all, is just added our comment to what they'd already got.
Yeah.
So what I'd like us to do now, if it's all right with you, because this has been going on for about a year and a half now, is it's ultimately up to Yvonne to go to the Commissioner of Oaths and sign and swear the statutory declarations. But I did feel when we were talking about it recently that we should be approving her to do that.
Yes.
So can we at least do that?
Yes.
Can I have a proposer?
Yes.
Seconder, George, that we've and everyone's happy?
Yeah.
It's unanimous. So Yvonne can do that once we've got the documents tidied up.
Yeah.
We've got this in the bank then. Good. Thank you. That's helpful.
They said it should be about £5 a swear.
Swear box.
No more than there's a statutory fee for and you have to pay in cash, right, Yvonne, before. I've done this for real.
In sovereigns, isn't it?
Thank you for coming.
Have a safe journey all.
You've heard all the best bits.
Yes, down there.
Right, okay. To discuss and agree the way forward with regard to vehicles in the cemetery. This is an exciting bit. Well, I will start if you like.
These are the joyriders.
I've heard Yvonne's version, and I will summarise it to safeguard the blushes of the guilty. Not Yvonne, let me stress. Apparently, problems have been arising in two respects with people, let's say, taking liberties with the cemetery, which of course is not locked, we just have the chain around the gate. And we've got a balance to strike. In most cases, if there's a funeral, the remains and the coffin go down on the bier, pushed down on the wheels and go to the grave. If Alf goes in there, he drives in and he puts his van in and his trailer and he goes mowing or stripping or whatever, and that's obviously what we authorise. Some people, one can imagine, might feel the need to drive down there because they are taking something heavy down, or they're not very good on the pins to walk down there. However, one person at least has gone back down to the far end of the cemetery, tried to turn round and bogged their car in, and had to be pulled out and left big ruts and what have you over the burial area. But I mean, whatever. But anyway, they bogged their car down, bogged the car in, and really shouldn't have been going down there at all. A different problem is that we've had reports that a particular individual in the parish, who has no business in the cemetery directly at all, is going down to the far end of the cemetery to park the car and then walk.
No, it's in the. I don't think it's the far end. I think it's just the circle.
I think it's further than that.
No, it's just a circle.
Okay, well that's not so bad in the sense that we might say, well, it's all right as long as you don't go any further than the turning circle, because then at least you won't be encouraging yourself to get bogged down. But I would prefer that people without business in the cemetery weren't going to the cemetery.
Absolutely. So this is someone who's out walking their dog, so they're clearly able to walk. Well, I just think it's not
It's
acceptable.
just a handy place to park.
Sorry, we don't have yellow lines on our streets and what have you. I think it's someone just being lazy.
I've never seen it, so I don't know. I go with different times.
It is an individual who would not likely take guidance.
What sort of time is it?
7:30 in the morning.
Couldn't they be approached by our local constabulary heirs?
Possibly.
Isn't that the way forward? And just
Just
remind
to
you
know
of their
who it is.
social responsibilities.
Send them a letter saying, please don't park in the cemetery if you've got business there.
If it's 7:30,
Yeah,
there's parking spaces, isn't there, at 7:30?
Oh,
It's not like the
Yeah,
school
it's
time where
park
all
outside
the
the church, park anywhere.
How do they get in there?
Drive down the lane.
Didn't they?
and then
Just
off
on the
So
gate.
they take the thing off the gate?
Yes,
It's only
it's not
wrapped
locked.
round, just lift it off.
Yeah. So it's not as though the gates are open though. They are.
No,
they
they're
always
closed.
kept closed.
A chain is
They always
round.
kept closed to keep dogs out.
Yeah.
Right.
Ironically, he drives in and then takes his dog out of the car.
outcome.
Well, that's
Why
the other
not
issue.
the
Dogs
gate?
shouldn't be
Go
in
in
anyone,
there.
should they?
Apart from Alf and the beer and possibly the hearse or whatever, is there any other need for vehicles to go down that lane at all?
Well,
there's
as I
no
said, if
basis.
someone is sort of on one leg or something, you can
I think
understand.
that's someone who was,
rather
yeah.
like, for instance, that say along the river at Potman's Heath, where you have a big gate and a small gate. Is there any merit in having, if it goes on, having a gate at the end of the lane near the road, and a lockable gate for cars and a walking through gate for
I
pedestrians?
think there is a need for people to be able to drive down that are visiting.
Graves, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
because there are a lot of elderly people.
Yeah.
But to park in the turning circle, walk down, that's not too far, and then get back in their car, turn in the turning circle, and then drive back out.
This might sound pedantic, but where does the dog go? And there's a reason for that. Is there's been quite. Does the dog go through the cemetery?
It can only come back this way, can't it? There's no way out the other end.
Well, that's.
Maybe comes out the cemetery.
Well,
into
there's
the
been
orchard.
quite a lot of commentary on next door about dog farming
Yeah.
and what have you. So,
Especially down there.
and without risk to getting into finer details, if you take a dog somewhere,
Yeah.
usually the first thing it does when it gets out of the car is seek somewhere to evacuate. And if that's going to be in the cemetery, that could be an angle we take that it's just, it's unacceptable to do that. It's laziness as well.
I think we should, as I suggested earlier, if we know who this individual is, they should be written to and asked politely not to park in the cemetery in future.
We have the right as a parish council to make decisions about that. We do.
Well, I did ask Yvonne when it first came up, I said, what exactly is the locus of the... We have some things written up on the notices in there, but what exactly is our locus? It doesn't seem to be a bylaw. Did you talk to ICCM as I suggested?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Well,
So please, off you go.
And I explained the problems we were having, and this is from Mark Crawley. As the local authority's cemeteries order offers that you are able to set out a cemetery as the authority sees fit, it may be best at this stage to put some remedial measures in place to stop the parking issues. This could include signage and warnings that you are an operational cemetery. However, realistically, even if they are in your rules and regulations, it may prove very difficult to enforce these. Could it be an option to remove the possibility of the issue occurring? This could include, but is not limited to, wooden stakes acting as a deterrent or some ornamental railings in the long term, which would involve some outlay but remove the problem itself. Either approach wouldn't cause an issue with the public right of way, because obviously getting down there is part of that. Just highlight and potentially deter the persons adding to the issue. Well, the parking, that doesn't solve the parking, but I think where people are turning down at the bottom, which is in D section, which is before where the bins are, there aren't any memorials, so there's nothing to indicate that people are buried there, so they probably think, oh, just turn around there. But that's why this vehicle got stuck, I think, as well, because of all the rain we've had, and obviously it's not hard ground.
No, that's right.
There are people buried there, aren't there?
Yes. Yes, it's
Then
completely.
we need to sign.
So,
I think that person ought to be charged for the repairs to the ground, personally.
Well, that's a different person.
No, the one who went on the grass and had to be pulled out.
I think certainly if they went on doing it after they've been asked not to.
well, this won't happen again.
There only happened once.
There's a case to put up proper signage. The other thing is that we could think about having the cemetery, if this person's going at 7:30 in the morning, having the cemetery closed and say open from 9 till 5, and a sign up saying if you want to visit the cemetery outside of these hours, please contact and give a contact number.
Who unlocks it?
Whoever's on duty would Alf be able to unlock it? Is he
Well, he
around
would,
at
but
most
obviously
days?
he does come, he is having to come in,
Yeah.
he doesn't, he finishes at 4 and not 5, so.
I think that sounds
Because the
like
church
inconveniences
gets
a lot
unlocked
of
every day,
people.
doesn't it?
It inconveniences a lot of people rather than stopping one person.
Well, yeah, but who's going to visit at half? I mean, all I'm saying is, so take another example, and I don't know this, but the cemetery in Tenterden, which is not Tenterden's, not a burial cemetery, is that open to the public 24 hours? I thought they had gates there.
I think it's locked.
It's locked.
I
So
think
the
it's
precedent that they're not open 24 hours a day.
Oh yes, I agree, but still it's still
Something
something
to
that
do.
yes, exactly.
But I'm
Outside-
with George on this. I think that person needs to be
Just
written
ask the
to
person not
or...
to do it.
Well,
Yeah.
I was only going, I totally
One
agree.
person.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just Jeremy said this person is not likely to take any notice of it. So,
Well, let's
Is
try
that
it.
right?
yeah.
Okay.
And,
Well, we should have
we're not
some
allowed-
signage up there.
We're not allowed to, are we allowed to know the name?
We're going to talk about it later.
That would be helpful.
Can we say that it's on the agenda, we've shared it, this is all recorded, we take a view that we need to take steps to try and ameliorate or stop this problem completely, and we will work out how to do it. It may be sort of a multi-stage process.
I think we should have signage up saying, please, no vehicles except on burial business or whatever the appropriate word, or visiting a grave.
Whether they take any notice.
Well, yes, I know, but that's the first stage.
People
Just,
will, I think people will. And
Because then
also, if they know that area, there are people buried there, they may be
But this is it, what I would
they don't, people don't
suggest is that we put, as is suggested, and I've suggested too, is wooden posts. Just because it would only need to, because it's not an enormous area, that would stop.
You want a little chain link. at a low height, just
You mean
as
to
a
stop-
marker.
To stop the turning.
Yes.
Stop
Yeah,
going
because
past
down
the...
the bottom.
Yes,
Yes.
then they would have to
Yes.
reverse, which
And
is
the
what
sign.
Alf does
Yes.
Yes.
with the trailer.
Or reverse down then.
Yeah.
One or the other, yeah.
The parking at the top is more of a problem, and it might not be an always problem, whereas this turning at the bottom could, obviously is, I haven't seen it, but the one person that did get stuck, somebody else, when they couldn't turn, said, oh, I've got to reverse. So they obviously don't normally reverse either. So it does sound as if this is more of a...
But when you and I spoke, what we said was we wouldn't allow any vehicles apart from Alf to
But we
go
can't.
beyond the turning circle.
Can't stop that.
Why not?
Well,
The first thing
might be there to do it.
well, okay, there's an issue of enforcement. The first thing that I
Yes.
said at the time, which I thought agreed with, was that we will have a little sign,
No unauthorised.
no unauthorised vehicles
beyond
past
the
this point.
Yeah.
Then at least if you find someone down there, you've got something to berate them about.
We can actually stop them if we want to,
Yeah.
ultimately.
It's our land.
But it seems a shame to prevent people going into the centre, particularly a village.
Well, the
Well,
turning circle's one thing. As soon as they go down the line,
That's
the
right.
people who can't walk can't turn their heads either and don't know how to reverse in a straight line.
Well, we ought to have a warning sign up then.
If you can't
So-
turn your head, don't go beyond this point.
Well, first of all, if they get stuck, imagine if they get stuck, are we liable? If we don't warn them, they could be in difficulty. Something happens.
The irony is, when Al first started, I actually towed him out of there because he got stuck.
So a sign is
This
necessary.
pre-employment check. No, I think that there's a liability for us if someone gets into difficulty and whatever happened, and heaven forbid they actually took their car so far down they rolled over into the ditch and injured themselves. We put up no signs in that cemetery saying we absolving ourselves from liability.
Yeah, fair enough.
A sign and a letter.
We can't actually block off the little lane completely because Alf actually takes the
Yeah.
trailer down
Yes.
to unload it to put on the bonfire.
Yes.
We could give him one of those police stingers that he could put temporarily down. You can lock them in place.
Okay.
What do you
Oh, I
suggest,
see the
George?
stonemasons go down there.
A sign and a letter.
Would it
A
actually
sign,
be worth
a sign to stop people going down to the end,
Makes a
discouraged,
suggestion.
and a letter to the individual
Yeah.
that's causing the
Yes.
issue.
That would be the appropriate way to start with.
Mick
One at a time.
just suggested a locking bollard,
True.
which,
Yeah.
you know,
That's true. And Alf can have a key.
Lots of people could have it
Yeah. Locking bollard.
Where?
in the
Like
middle
we
of the
have,
road.
like we have in the meadows.
Yeah, presumably beyond the turning circle.
Yes, just after. It cost about £500 or £600.
So what
So
do
whenever-
old people that want to go down there
Yes.
won't be able to go down there?
And the stonemasons?
There
Somebody's got to
there
go
may
down
well be a
there
need
every
for
time.
a disabled person or elderly person to be transported down.
Does the stonemason want to take his van down?
Yes.
Oh, right, I see.
Yes, there was one down there last week.
But then they're always going to tell us when they're coming. And
No.
Oh, they don't. They're good.
well, a few
Well,
should
they-
be.
They may just be
Down
passing.
down there.
They can have a key.
I think a
A
small
sign
sign.
and a-
Stonemasons.
Yeah, but there's lots
A
of
sign and a
different
letter's
ways to do it.
cheaper.
Well, they can sort that out.
How many-
That's
Can
the
I
first
suggest
thing.
we try a sign and letter first?
Yes.
Yeah.
If it's still a problem.
I would
We'll
support
By the
that.
way, when we introduce our carbon neutral policy, there won't be cars anyhow going down there.
Right, okay.
Would it be worth you putting a little bit in the magazine separate to the parish council stuff? Just saying
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
this problem, don't do this, don't do that, as well as
Yes.
just
Yes.
try it.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Anything
Okay.
like that.
Whether people read it.
All right, let's call that a day for now
Sorry?
on this.
Just
We can
finish
have a little bit more
that one
discussion
letter,
later on
big sign.
outside the
It might
meeting.
stop it.
Okay, thank you. The Great British Spring Clean, 20th of March to 13th of April. We've been notified about that from Ashford.
Yes.
We have done spring cleans once or twice at least here.
Yeah.
Are we enthusiastic about doing it? And ideally at that time, because last time we did it a bit later on, didn't we?
We did it within the time. It was just towards the very end of the time.
All right, wasn't it? Okay.
Isn't it an ongoing thing round the year? I mean, I certainly view it as Woman's Heath as being something.
Well, it's just been part of
done
this
every day.
The national thing is.
The national event.
So the 13th will come up to Easter, won't it? Easter.
I would support someone volunteering to do it personally.
Yeah.
You're free equipment.
Well, we always knew that you were so handy, George, being right opposite the village hall.
I'll do it
How do you
again.
get people to help,
I'll do
George?
it again.
You
Now.
This will help.
They just we advertise it in the
Outlook.
For a weekend,
various
yeah.
places next
When do
door.
we need to get it into Outlook?
Well, we haven't got the date. We haven't got the date. We're going to do it yet.
No.
I need to look at my calendar.
No,
and
but
see
it
when
will
I'm
obviously have to
available.
go
If
into
it's
the
put to
March.
the March, it would be the March one,
March
so we
Outlook,
need
which
to
means
decide.
15th of February.
Yeah.
Do you think people feel guilty when they see you doing it, thinking I must never throw rubbish out of my car window?
No.
Or do you think they think, oh well, they're clearing it up, I can
I'll
throw as
throw
much
it
as I
back.
like out of it?
No,
But
that's
I
too
don't
This is
complicated.
done within
thought
the
pattern.
30-mile limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We pick very
Not your
little
area.
litter up because there isn't much within the 30-mile-an-hour limit.
Yeah,
Most of
they
it
put it
is
all up my
outside.
side.
Is it something we could invite the school to support, given it's in the village and not out in the, on the highway? Is it something that we could at least ask
the
the village if they
conversation,
wanted to pass?
But then it would have to be on a weekday, not on a weekend.
But you do get families,
Yeah, we had all
yeah,
families.
they say to
Every
children
age
get
group possible.
involved.
actually.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
And it can be put in their link
Yeah.
that it's happening.
Yes.
There were a lot of children
So-
last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
There
do.
you go. But don't let that stop the Potman's Heath initiative.
It's every day of the year.
And by the way, the link between people having the intelligence to decide whether to throw it out or not, that doesn't exist. There's no intelligence behind. But I'm holding a McDonald's package for 20 miles from Ashford and waiting till they get hit and throw it out.
Okay,
Okay.
so we'll leave that one with George to see if he can find a date. Thank you. KCC Select Committee on Affordable Housing. This one caught me
Yeah.
sort of a little bit took to the extreme. I mean, I saw this thing. I thought we put it on the agenda because you may have different views. It seems to me to be in somewhat rarefied atmosphere, really.
Well, it is.
compared to
I mean,
us.
I've got a copy of the printout.
Right.
It seems that they're verified backpack because they've got no legal enforcement.
No.
All it's a talking shop, and not they're going to encourage other people to participate.
Did this come by Cal?
No, it came out by Kent Gov
It
UK.
came, yes, it came from Kent and Cal.
It came from Cal.
And Calp as well.
One of the suggestions in there was it from Calc saying to see if they could extend the date?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
It only
Yeah.
came to Calc on the 9th of
very
January.
late.
and the
Yeah.
I wondered whether or not, are they inviting personal representations or written submissions or both? And that's one question I had. The second one is, could we not submit our report that was done for us independently by Rural Kent as our commentary, because that highlighted the need, what our ideas, what the options were. So we've got something in writing with a covering note. We could say absolutely, and this is our submission to the committee. Gets on the radar.
I think the problem is that a Kent Select Committee, however their Select Committee system works, we can imagine. Kent Select Committee on Housing, thinking about what they should do to solve housing problems in Kent, and Wittersham here, or Tenterden or anybody else, we are that far apart from what I said, the rarefied atmosphere, that it's just going to be like this.
It's a bit like the caretaker. Isn't
Could I ask how long KCC have actually been interested in housing?
Well, I think
It's not their
it's a very loose term.
They have no
Mike.
statutory
You
responsibility.
don't respect no statutory
The nearest
responsibility.
they have is strategic planning, I think.
Well, if that,
That's all.
they usually say it's minerals they're worried about,
They do.
not...
No, but they do have a
anything else.
strategic planning
Wait and see.
responsibility for the county. But I mean, housing is Ashford's responsibility.
Well, it's each district's
Yeah,
responsibility.
indeed, but in our case, Ashford.
You're right, but the general population would regard county councillors as having a responsibility for affordable housing, whether they did or not, by the way. They and also at MP and national level. It's one of those things that's in the spotlight. So I guess our decision is, do we ignore it, right, just completely ignore, or do we actually put forward, even though we are a long way from County Hall, do we put forward our external report as our submission
Okay.
of our need? And the reason I say that is that then at some stage in the future we could be talking to Ashford, we could be talking to a housing association or whatever, and if they said, well, what have you done in the past? We said, well, we actually did respond to the call for submissions.
But all right, that is true, and it is something that, here was one we did earlier. However, if we want something that is, and we would be surmising to a great degree anyway, but if we want to have something that is going to be of any interest or value to KCC Select Committee, I think it's got to be of a policy nature rather than here is the number of grannies in Wittersham who said they'd like to downsize in the next 5 years, which is, like I said, they just don't match. If we wanted to say something of a policy nature, and here I'm just top of the head stuff, we might say, for instance, the 30%, no 40, the 40% affordable housing specification in a village like Wittersham is a good idea, a bad idea, or a completely, unnecessary idea for the following 3 reasons. But our housing survey about Wittersham, I just don't think has any relevance to the Kent policy framework.
Well, hang on, we don't know what the Kent policy framework is. So we have to cut. They called for submissions, as far as I can.
Yes, they have. It says welcome any submissions about affordable housing.
So first of all, what is our policy on affordable housing? We should have one as a parish council. I think that's a reasonable thing, even if it's 3 lines. We have looked at it. We have got a consensus. It's an issue. We all agree that we should do something about it. And if you remember, because there's all sorts of different ideas floating around, our first step, if you like, to try and get some form of independent rationale was to employ outside experts to come and do this. So I think we're perfectly entitled to go back and respond to their call for submissions.
The terms of reference are actually here, and they're very short. To define and put into context affordable housing. I mean, defining affordable housing, I think would be quite useful, because affordable housing, local needs housing, shared ownership housing, this, that and the other, they're all help to buy, they're all cutting across each other in ways that I don't think any of us get our minds around. Obviously, our borough council knows all that stuff. To explore KCC's current role in supporting the development of new affordable housing in Kent. In other words, how much do KCC think they should try and weigh in with the districts to help them interfere with them or whatever else? And thirdly, to consider additional ways in which KCC can support the development of affordable housing in Kent. Now, I mean, if we said, for argument's sake, I'm just making this up obviously, to Kent, okay, number 3, consider additional ways in which KCC could do this. You give us £1 million and we will sort out 10 affordable houses. Something like that. That addresses, they are looking at it up here.
But okay, fair enough. But if you turn it on its head, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you're working for KCC and you're given the job.
Okay.
You're given the job to get to grips to understand what KCC should be doing on affordable housing. And one of the first initiatives, we should go and talk to the parish councils. And if the parish councils completely ignore you, right?
Oh, I understand that part.
I mean, I have to say, I applaud the initiative, whether it's successful, whether they fully scope it out, what have you. And I just think there's an opportunity. We could be one of the other 450 parish councils in Kent, or however many there are. It says, you know what?
Oh no, 300.
300, yeah. Well, we're going on the village halls and community halls. Say 300. We could be one of the 300 who says, you know what, we won't bother. But we have done this work, and to my mind, we have got it. It is something that we generally agree is something that is important for the future of the village. And whether or not anything comes from it, I would be uncomfortable if we were, part of the group said, can't be bothered.
Okay, so what we might try and do...
Having a policy, I agree with you having some policy, but we could... Where does it say in that the parish council is not allowed to define its own policy?
No,
it doesn't say anything.
We could be quite ambitious and put forward the fact that our policy is that we aim to do this, and this. We've done our research. It says that we should be doing 3 to 4 houses a year. In 10 years, over 10 years, that's 30 to 40 houses. And again, the other thing that I'm mindful of is that the hiatus we had on Stocks Road, right, we all knew that if we did nothing, we'd get revisited by Ashford. We did. They wanted to put 40 plus houses. This time it's gone away, but it's not going away forever.
No.
And I see this as a part of our initiative, a strand of that says,
Well, it's the start of a strategy.
It's the start of a strategy, exactly.
Okay, well, what I think we're getting towards, Paul, as you realise, obviously, I don't think sending them our a housing survey hits the spot. What I can see is that we could reasonably write a letter which will say, this is where Wittersham stands, this is what we're doing, this is how we're trying to stimulate some house building, and we have done a survey, by the way, and blah, blah, blah. And it is simply a letter. So we have submitted something, we're on the radar, they know that Wittersham responded, and we will tell them what our views are in this sort of broadish brush sort of way.
And invite them to come and speak to us if they want to find out more. I mean, there's nothing wrong with inviting. They might just ignore it and never come anywhere near us. But if we can stand up in the future and say, hey, we've tried to respond possibly, invited them to come and speak to us, then...
Okay, well, we'll try and draft something.
Agreed.
Try and draft something.
But the point that you brought up about we should have a policy, we don't have a policy.
Well, it would be a good idea. I mean, I've written a number of policies in the past, as Yvonne knows, and we've got them in the book. But you've got to have something to say. And at the moment, particularly because it's a sensitive subject here, and publicise your policies, we haven't actually done that. I can put in this letter though things like the up to 5, and we take it as an average of 3, and you know, I mean, I can even add a paragraph or 2 about the sordid history of the 27 that got rejected and the 40 that nearly got foisted on us, and that we're making efforts now with local landowners and providers.
It won't be long before somebody tries again.
That's right. That's right.
You could maintain rural transport,
Okay.
bus routes as well.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Clerk's expenses. You've seen the list. Are they okay?
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Everyone's happy with the clerk's expenses, right? Wittersham Village Hall recharge of the Vodafone Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
£240. Is that true? You're still going to put it on the wall, George?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for payments to come back. Can I just say, Paul asked at the last meeting what the monthly limit was. It's 15 gigabytes a month. So I think that would be enough to keep us going.
Sounds like it.
Right. Invicta Law annual membership fee. When has it been invoiced? Has it?
No, it hasn't, but it's due this month.
It's done, that's right.
I'm not that happy with them at the minute. I don't think they've done a great job on the registration, but obviously we need to get that done. The original deal was that they were going to do 3 seminars a year. We've only ever heard of one, which I was due to attend until I was then double booked. That's in 2 to 3 years. The person who was leading on that whole thing as one of their partners, I think left soon afterwards. I'm not sure really what's going on, and I think if we'd like to do it this way, if we can approve the payment of the annual membership fee, but I'd like to discuss with you first where we're going with it, because I get the feeling that if someone had a bright idea, set off in that direction,
And normally
they've
straighten it
never
up.
ever taken ownership of it. Or
I think I would agree with you. If you can, if we agree technically, yes, we approve it, but you have a conversation.
What are we getting for it?
What are we getting for it, and where's it leading to?
Yeah.
Was it recommended to us?
They wrote.
They wrote to us, didn't they?
Yeah. When
Offered
I
it.
said that we ought to have a lawyer lined up, and I had had a discussion with Harrington's in Rye, who are a multi-branch agency, having had problems with the one in Tenterden, another multi-branch, not Harrington's. And then out of the blue, I had a discussion with one of the partners at Harrington's, particularly about the land registration, and they were quite keen. And then out of the blue, I had a meeting with Yvonne, the weekly meeting, and she just had a letter in from these people saying, you know, we are the, what do you call it, outsourced, the opposite, when it was Kent County Council's in-house lawyers who got cast adrift into a new partnership. In effect, yes.
Yeah.
They still carry on the Kent work, but they were told to go and get a trust from outside. So they said, oh, why don't we write to all the parish councils? Now, I've no idea if we're the only one who ever did it, or if there are others. We get a discount on the rate, and we were supposed to get 3 seminars a year.
Is it worth flagging out through CAL? Because do they have some recommended lawyers, or Well, I think we've got a cult membership. I would have said, who do you recommend?
We haven't done that.
I think that's worth checking.
In fact, I've never heard anything from CALP of any sort about talking to any lawyers other than, and this is probably why this is the case, they go to NALP's lawyers. But we can't. This is legal things of general application. This is not a lawyer for a parish council.
No.
Well, it's definitely a need.
And NALP have about 10 lawyers. But they're doing legal stuff,
we
writing their guidance
We
notes.
can also ask rural Kent, if that, because there'll be other parish that might have come across it. So when we check out the village hall piece, I'll ask if there's a tried and trusted, if that's not too much of a contradiction in terms.
For a lawyer,
For a lawyer.
It'll be interesting to see how many other parishes are involved with
My
that.
feeling when I suggested we went to Invicta was they should have their minds around public law issues, which private lawyers often won't, because most public organisations have got their own lawyers, or they deal with the big firms in London like I used to. And this is part of the problem. Of course, I used to be dealing with partners in the international firms, and now you come to Invicta and it's chalk and cheese. So they should have been better on public law matters. And council powers, they should know LGA 72 backwards, which is not for the faint-hearted, and various others. They were also not hugely expensive, and they were offering a discount.
Yeah.
So that seemed worth a try. But to be honest, the work we've had on the land registration has been pretty shallow. And they're not applying themselves to it. Now I know it's not making much money for them, but they've got to do it.
Well, let's us check out the rural Kent. I'll check out the rural Kent. You flag it past CALP. There's an opportunity for a couple of bods who've retired from KCC on the legal side to do it in competition.
Do better work, yeah.
Do better work.
I mean, one of the things is, this is not just stock in trade stuff. As soon as you're doing this sort of thing, it's likely to have more things that have to be thought about.
Yeah.
Someone who can actually read the words and say, well, no.
Well, this was all connected also to our desire to stake our territory, and brand the village.
All of that, yeah. Okay, right, so are we happy to do it this Monday? Thank you very much. Have a safe trip home.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yes.
Right, so we've approved it if we...
Don't take a route where there are a lot of trees.
Working party with
We'll stay in the car park all night.
Okay, caretaker.
Nothing really, although we need to arrange a meeting.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, please do. Monthly transaction statement we've had given out to all.
Good night, Mike.
Thank you.
Are people happy with that?
Yes,
Can I sign it?
you can.
I've had contrary and wrong things, so you can see I've had to play about with it.
Yeah.
And the other one is...
We've had money in from Cnardington Wareham.
Good. And while we're on.
Okay, thank you. And now there's the 3 quarterly budget statement.
Which is on the back of my expenses.
And we're doing okay there.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything that sort of leaps out as a oops. We seem to be in good shape. Planning considered since the last meeting is all the we supported.
Yeah.
And you put that in. Yes. Decisions received.
Sorry.
Go on.
I was only going to go on to the next bit, but, well, the enforcement.
Oh, right, okay. That's down where?
It's
here.
not, I've had to, that's why I was going to talk about it.
Okay.
Which is where we've had the land next to the other one where the planning application was turned down, was refused. The piece next to it has had caravans and containers put on and quite a number of gates. So I reported it to Ashford and they have put through an alleged breach. So this case has been assessed as a priority 2. Can't find out what that means.
How many priorities are there?
And has been assigned to Tony Jarvis to deal with. He will endeavour to provide me with an update within 10 days, so by the 20th of January.
Oh.
Is this the land that your neighbour? Sorry.
Well, the local observers are concerned about 3 separate sites down there. One is Palstray Field, where the application was turned down. The next one is the chickens.
Yes.
And of course,
one.
and I mean there
Is
is
that the chicken one?
Yes.
Okay.
and of course there is concern about the proliferation of buildings behind the riding school.
That hasn't come officially to me. So.
2 or 3 people have said that if you look down from the other side, the number of buildings is actually going up more or less exponentially there.
Is that just riding on that? Sorry, it's a dreadful pun. Is there a public right of way through Cuckoo Cottage?
Yes.
It's now blocked, isn't it? Did John Bradford talk to you about it?
No.
Well, he mentioned it to me a few
I didn't
days
know
ago.
there was a public right
that
of way, I completely-
they've made
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
It'd be good to know where that is. Do you walk that?
No.
I haven't done that.
Okay.
Might be
He
right, yeah.
said that he was very annoyed because they were blocking it and preventing
There
it.
are, the last I heard, my group did go through on New Year's Day, or attempted to, and I wasn't walking, and there weren't that many, but there were loads of horses in the field, and nobody felt safe going through this field of horses, so they turned around and found a different route.
I thought somebody told me that there'd been a big gate put
Yes,
across,
it's blocked.
like a big 5-bar gate
Yeah.
across the...
Yeah. It's not
yeah,
signed.
that came up quite a
And
while
it's-
ago.
and they take, if there is signage, it's
Certainly
been
not
removed
signed.
and they blocked it.
That is a job for the Walkers Group, though, is it not?
Not the Walkers Group,
Or the-
it's for me.
Okay, you're both.
Well, Countryside Access Board.
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, I just...
Well,
yeah.
I flagged that in that it's, I think,
Okay.
it's a Cuckoo Cottage one, yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
I don't want to disrupt what they're doing, because I think it's excellent. They're running a riding stable there, and really excellent, but they just need to try and perhaps adhere to the regs.
Okay.
And it is for rescue horses or something?
No.
No.
No, that-
No.
Livery and riding school.
It's actually for rescue. It's actually for rescue riders.
Shall we move on?
Equally as important.
Go on.
Yes, they've been successful so far.
We are
Yeah, highways.
Okay, so from my perspective, I think it's worth mentioning that travelling around this part of Kent extensively, the highways in Wittersham, the state of them, except with one exception, are remarkably good compared to, you go into Tenterden now, and the whole road is by Tesco is appalling there.
Yes.
Everyone's weaving in and out.
Yeah.
and
It's been done
Yeah.
so often.
Well, it's been done. And then also the Cranbrook Road is a complete liability.
Yeah.
However, having said that, coming tonight, there's a sock and great hole outside Mervyn's.
Yeah, that's been
Yeah,
left.
it's been there.
Yeah, it's been there a while.
Oh, right, it's been
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, but the mark's disappeared now.
Have you seen the pothole at the end of my truck?
At the end of...
Where I live? Have you
No.
seen the pothole? Don't go down my road quickly, because the pothole's about 3 foot deep.
Have you reported it
Several
Yes.
times.
online? You've got a reference number?
Mrs. Lloyd-Smith has done that.
Yes.
Well, just check, because you can track it, and you've got a reference number.
Indeed.
Done it
Well,
officially.
it gets, I mean, I fill it
Yes,
up every
where
now
it
and
is.
again. But now I'm just leaving it. Come on.
Can I just, sorry,
Yeah.
can you just confirm that that pothole is still there?
Yes.
Yeah, tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I...
Yeah.
I know,
There,
I
yes,
look at my tyre.
No.
Yeah.
Yes, just I needed to know, because if I do, when I reported the ones at the top of Lloyd's Green, there are 3
Yeah.
as you go into Lloyd's Green,
Yeah.
I reported those
Yeah.
yesterday, and noticed this other one is still marked. But when I went on the site and reported, that one on the corner isn't actually flagged up as a fault.
Oh.
So I want to go back and say, it's been marked, why isn't it actually there, because it hasn't been done.
Could they do it with luminous paint as well?
And also, we've had a problem
We
with
should go out and do it.
down towards just before the Lees, the edge of the road there is
Yes.
Yeah.
really
Yes.
sharp where,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and a friend had
Both
tyres
Mm.
ruined, so I reported that as well. Or Darren came back today to say, recent your inquiry about the verge damage in Blackwall Road, this has been inspected and this is not essential work, so I will not be taking any action with this verge today. Also, it is the wrong time of the year to be doing verge repairs, the weather needs to be drier. please relog this issue with this village if it gets any worse. So I went back and said, thanks, Darren. Tyres have been damaged by this edge of the road. What compensation can drivers expect, please, if no action is being taken? He came back an hour or so later. Hi, Yvonne. I've just raised an order to get the worst section done.
Oh, darling.
Hope this is okay.
It's only future asking you to report the one at the end of my drive, as well as me.
Well, I will go on.
Coming from Parish Council level.
No, it doesn't make any difference.
No, what's?
I just thought it might, a bit of, gravitas.
No, they ignored all of us.
No, it needs gravel.
Is it actually at the entrance? It's on the road. It's just I haven't seen
that's
it.
where
So
my drive is. It's right there, right in the middle. I have to drive either side of it, but people coming along the road get
Catch
straight
it.
into it.
okay, I'll do that.
There's the hole in
I
my
just thought it
road.
might have additional gravitas if it came from.
Well, obviously it's mine. Let's say I just reported this and he came back to me.
Yeah.
Have you got good contact in the tarmacking industry?
Put a sign there.
Don't.
Yeah.
Several.
Beware the lake.
One more thing on highways, the drain people were out doing a load of drains in Swan Street, or they were supposed to be. Has it made any improvements? I know Janet was on top of it and shouting at them
The
a few
top, they
times.
came back and did the top again, but they haven't come down to the one outside 18B, which
Still.
is appalling. And
So
it keeps being, we keep reporting and reporting, make no difference.
And that's outside who?
It's 18B.
Oh, 18B.
HCB.
And the same in the street. Outside treetops and outside the church, they're still blocked.
Yes, yes.
One outside my house is the only drain on that side for the whole side of work.
Yeah.
Okay. Public rights of way?
Very muddy. Extremely muddy.
Open spaces?
The
Muddy.
same, really.
Muddy.
Yeah.
Muddy.
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 Cemetery and churchyard?
Muddy.
Pretty much.
Muddy.
Muddy.
and parks. Okay, date of next meeting, date of next parish council meeting, that's straightforward. Items for information.
I've got some that want to go.
I was going to just give a very brief update that the pub campaign is going well. The prospectus is being put together. It's very complicated in the sense that it's not only an appeal for funding, but it's a legal document.
Sure.
So it has to follow a lot of compliance rules. But Neil McClure's on the case. It's now in its sort of final stages, and they'll be looking to raise funds probably next month. It's progressing pretty well. There's an awful lot of work's gone into it. It's very thorough. Going back to the last pop-up pub, they took over 2,000. The net figure that the pop-up pub, the Save the Swan campaign got was reduced because the people raising money for the playground they managed to get over 600 quid, plus they didn't have to pay for the hire of the village hall, so we covered that. So it was a great value to the people, that disco, asking that. And we're trying to find out, I don't know what the church made.
About 300, just over
300.
300.
So if you add it together, it's roughly about £1,000 that two worthy causes made on top of the
They should do about 50 meals.
Yeah.
It was for lunchtime meals.
Yeah, lunchtime meals.
So are you saying that the Swan didn't actually make much?
They made a net of, I think, and I think it was about. I think it was about 400 quid or 500 net after all that.
Yeah.
They'd have made a lot more. The previous one, they made a lot more. So the fighting fund, if I can call it that, I think stands around £3,000 at the moment net, which is very good.
Decent.
We're pursuing basically the avenue of primarily selling shares, as you know, but also we have a number of different potential grants, and I've been looking into those. A lot of the grants they're far more applicable when you're up and running. So you can get a grant for this, or to alleviate isolation or loneliness, or what have you. There are capital grants that we're investigating. I've been talking to Mick about 2 or 3 of those. There's potentially even some, believe it or not, EU money. We registered before the 15th of February. That's nothing to do with the dates of Brexit. I think it's just that the money's there. And we're looking, and Plunkett Foundation, the big rural charity, we should be able to get a substantial grant there. I think the overall figure is going to be around 500,000. That's not the purchase price. That's also allowing for
repairs and
maintenance. The
Yeah.
car park's in a pretty ropey state,
Yeah.
and there's got to be a contingency fund in there.
Yeah.
There will be VAT on top of the purchase price, but we will be registered as a community benefit society, so we'll be able to get that 80,000 back. So the price is around about 400,000, which is very much in line. We did
the sale price?
the sale price, yes.
Yeah, sale price.
We did hear one of the members of the group mentioned that the pub in Idens for sale, as is the Black Lion and Appledore. But that doesn't mean to say, I mean, the Appledore, I don't know the story there, it could be the fact that the guy wants to retire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't mean to say, because it's a pretty vibrant, and the one in Iden has been doing very well, but of course the tenant, well, I keep on seeing people from Wittersham going in there. But I think the thing is the owner is separate from the tenant. So it might be that the owner wants to sell it.
The word I heard at Iden, which I did pass on to John, was that, this was someone in the business, was that the landlord of the property, the freeholder, wishes to sell it.
Yeah.
The leaseholder is, if it was put to me correctly, is also thinking of selling his lease, but that seems to partly be because he's not sure what things will be like if the freehold is sold. So it's a freeholder selling first of all, and then the lease may be destabilised. Now, if the lease is running out as well, that wasn't put. Okay, thank you, Paul. That's good. So we should see something in another.
I think within a month, yeah.
Okay, good.
And we do have people, coming to, not to the saying, look, here's my money. We have to be quite careful of accepting it because it's got to comply. But we bumped into people. There seem to be quite a few new people in the village over the last few months. And several of them have said, yeah, we want to get it open, and there's quite a lot of enthusiasm.
Leslie? Anything? Colin?
No, nothing.
Sue?
No.
No? George? No, thank you.
Okay, just to say that I will be attending the web accessibility workshop on Monday, which is something that we have to be aware of. And Alan will be attending the Health and Wellbeing Conference.
Oh.
And Alan has agreed to do a report on it for us.
In Swan.
You're going to Swanley, aren't you?
Sittingbourne is where.
It's a nice overnight stay.
There is something I wanted to say when you finish.
Right.
No, great.
And dog fouling.
Dog fouling.
I just wonder whether we should put something in the outlook.
Please.
No?
Yes, please.
We won't put a separate piece in because the last time we did it, we were inundated with abuse from people and everything else. Yeah.
Is that the dogs?
The dogs.
But if you, I don't know why. Just
No,
people
what sort of abuse? Sorry, just not in general.
complaining about people complaining about dog's mess and
I
I
see.
clean my dog. It was just continual. But you could put it in the notes if you like to slip a bit in there. Not as a separate piece.
I'm trying to catch the people because there are at least 3 people down this road with little dogs. And I know they're little dogs without putting too fine a point on it. But
have you been measuring it?
Yeah.
and they walk up and down, and I never see them with bags in their hands or anything like that. So I've got no idea. So as soon as I see them, I'm going to follow them home.
You do that. Anything else?
No, Alan's got something.
I sent you a little email. I do apologise for about the tennis.
Yes.
And it's horribly elitist, and that troubles me, but it does raise quite a lot of money. And it just crossed my mind that there might be tennis players amongst us, but there might not. And the parish council might come along as non-playing picnickers if they would like to, and they still have to pay because it's for the church. But it was an invitation. It was a note for your diaries in September.
Thank you.
Noted.
Thank you.
The 6th, isn't it?
6.
The President's cricket match is on the 5th.
Is it?
And the Wittersham tennis tournament on
Come
the
on
6th.
by
It's
a
big
big weekend season
It's a big sporting weekend.
Exactly.
Good.
Would the body cope with
Like
it?
the Oval,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Can we just resolve then by... Can we just resolve for the sensitivity of the next item to exclude the public, which we have to do formally? This is to discuss the community awards scheme.
Yes.
George has proposed that, a seconder.
Yes.
Colin, and we've all agreed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, So we will.
Sorry, do we need to
Do we
turn
switch
that
off
No,
now?
we will now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We're making a resolution in a public session.
Oh, we've done it, okay.
So I'll now close the council meeting. Thank you very much. Right, I'll close.